Welcome to the party, pal.
I don't care what anyone says, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And yeah, I know, they featured converted HK94s and not MP5A5s. That was the movie that introduced me to my first love, the MP5. And I think that goes for pretty much everyone else that grew up watching John McClane drop bodies every Christmas. To make it feel more authentic to their HK94s, I decided to remove the Paddle magazine release for the intro shoot. Turns out, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Hi everyone, Bada Bing here. Today we'll be looking at VFC's latest version 2 HK MP5 gas blowback SMG licensed by Umarex. Yes, this is the second variant of their updated version 2 family, and I used to own their SD version, which was released at the start of 2019. They've made one or two changes since then, making it that little bit better. So thanks for joining me today, and if you like content like this and want to show your support, hit subscribe. Now, there's nothing different about the box these things come in compared to all the other HK Umarex boxes, so we'll move into the contents. Inside with the MP5 you'll still find a 30 round version 2 green gas magazine, manual and speed loader. The MP5 itself. Wow. Just wow. They really did an incredible job on the externals. This is probably the best looking MP5 I've ever had to date. From the tip we have a steel 3-lug flash hider, set within an alloy front iron sight post. Beneath the handguard the outer barrel is also alloy, and then we arrive at the first improvement from their previous MP5, the adjustable hop-up wheel. It's about time this was implemented and makes for easy calibrating on the fly. Although if you have chunky fingers it might be tough to adjust. But if you can find an edge to grip the wheel, it adjusts in defined clicky increments. Moving up to the charging handle and we notice that it is not made from steel, nor is the internal cocking tube. It still has that cheap rickety feel like their last MP5, and the finish is prone to scratching from the steel outer cocking tube. Continuing on to reveal the breathtaking curves of the stamped steel upper receiver. Run your eyes over the body, over its deep non-glossy black receiver. Damn, this thing looks amazing. The contours of the stamped steel receiver appears to be so accurate to the real HK. Details like the weld markings, iron sights, serial number, proof markings, and oh my, the HK MP5 trades. The rear iron sight base and drum are both steel, and the rotary adjustment is stiff. Peering through the iron sights reveals a clean, crisp sight picture, and I cannot help but smile as it's like seeing an old friend that you haven't seen in so long, and you go all nostalgic for those old days when you both cut someone in half. The polymer used here is exceptional. Unlike the rougher WE MP5, the plastic VFC I've chosen is soft to the touch. However, it feels solid in the hands, no flexing, no creaking, so no complaints here. The selector switch isn't as sharp as their SEF when rotating into the fire modes. It used to be super heavy and gave you a good thumb workout, but now as I've disassembled it a few times it has loosened up. People complain about the location of the selector switch and an inability to engage the safety with their thumb, but as I grew up with the MP5 since my old Marui AEG back in the late 90s, I have successfully evolved longer thumbs because that's how much I care. Finishing our flight over the MP5, we have come to the A3 stock assembly. Its base cap is steel, as well as the locking mechanism, and the stock rails are also a kind of alloy material. The build quality of the MP5 is exceptional. Its fore-end, lower receiver and upper are so well built it's wonderful. In hand you can really tell you're holding onto a quality piece of kit, it is that solid. But then we get to the stock. Here we go again, well over a year and a half later, and VFC still cannot make their retractable stock rigid with the rest of the frame. What is the matter with you? I'm actually directing this question to the VFC engineers. Why, you clearly have not learned from your SD3, have you? it continues to have a terribly sloppy up and down wiggle. I could go on complaining about them, but let's get back on track. There is a way to take up the slack on the stock by pushing the release catch the opposite way, deeper into its lock, and this strengthens up the connection to a point where you can shoulder it without it being too floppy. That's something at least, but it's not ideal. Withdrawing the stock is not smooth at all, and it feels like it's grinding off material every time it's retracted. As much as I prefer the retractable stocks, I'm thinking a fixed A2 would do the rest of this sensational MP5 the true justice it deserves, or perhaps a real HK-A3 stock. The cocking tube detent secures in its resting position to a higher standard than before, so when it fires the last shot and the unrealistic bolt stop keeps the carrier out of battery, the charging handle doesn't fall out of its home when it's not being supported by the bolt. Despite the fact that the charging handle and its parts are not made from steel, I'm still confident in slapping it like the gorgeous little creature that it is. My previous SD just took it like a champ, and I expect this one will too. The bolt travel does appear to be getting caught when manually riding the bolt home. It's like it's getting caught on the chamber base, depending on how much of the carrier is slightly off-center. Magazine insertion is quite stiff, definitely a little better once you've gauged that angle of attack. MP5 mag wells are famous for being narrow, and this takes time to carve out that speedy reload skill. The magazine itself is a well-made component of this subgun. Externally it's stamped steel with a 30 round capacity. Loading the BBs is so smooth you don't even need an adapter to place over the feed lips. Your fingers will do just fine. Breaking the seal, let's see these internals. As I mentioned in my last VFC MP5 review, there aren't many components made out of steel, and this is no different. The version 2 bolt carrier, or perhaps we can call it a version 2.5, this features an improved tapering on the cocking tube interface. The previous model was a bit squared off. While they went to the trouble of increasing the bore size of the nozzle from the old V1s, they decided to mould the finer aesthetic details into the carrier and not make the bolt head a separate piece, and that's too bad. It's all finished with an almost black-grey colour, and this contrasts well with the upper receiver. The trigger pack features the same steel components carried over from the previous variant, only we have a few more parts plugged in there for the 3-round burst module. I haven't quite worked up the courage to strip the whole unit apart yet, so I'm not sure which of these pieces are going to be made from something other than compressed grass. The 3-round burst specific hammer is an example of a piece not made from steel. Note the curved wear markings where the bolt carrier end cap loosened and it impacted the hammer. It's caught the edge, but I think it'll be alright. Let's zoom back out and gaze upon this sexy piece of H&K goodness. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Wow. If you are looking for one of the best looking examples of gas MP5s, it's clear, VFC is king. For a CQC platform, VFC MP5s come flying out of the factory shooting a tad warm. The highest was 369.7 and lowest being 332.6, losing 37 FPS across the 30 shots. Unmodified, it shoots an average of 348.1. I installed an FG Airsoft 20% restrictor disc to suppress the speed, and the majority of the readings were sub 300 FPS. The modification produced a steeper drop of 45.4 FPS from the first to the last shot. I've already looked at the gas mileage with the SD3 with varying amounts of gas charged, but here's what my A5 puts out, 1 shot per second. 5 seconds of propane fired 68 shots, 10 seconds and it fired 143, and the most I could squeeze into the magazine was 15 seconds, which delivered 205 shots. Not that any of this really matters for practical purposes, Past 100 rounds, it's chugging all the way into the end, so this simply gives you a rough idea of its capacity. For the best results, 8 to 10 seconds of green gas or propane is all you need. Any more than that and you'll risk overfilling the magazines. Shooting this MP5, it is awesome. I mentioned in my previous video that the version 2 MP5s love being shot, and their new A5 is no different. It shoots with such incredible enthusiasm. This is what MP5s are all about. It simply cannot wait to storm rooms or embassies with you. It gives you that vibe every time you pull the trigger. It's not insanely quick like an MP7 or an MP9, nor is it quite as relaxed as the WE MP5. On this, it feels like they captured the same pace as the real thing. Semi-automatic sends a good jolt through the gun. It's not recoil intensive, and it's not supposed to be, being an SMG. Although there's a really playful bounce to it when you're burning off the mag. It's hard to translate the feeling on camera. Just know that each shot is crisp, strong, and you get the feeling it's enjoying it just as much as you are. The trigger is quite terrible. It doesn't give you anything to go by. The feeling is very spongy and it feels like you're pulling through ice cream until it decides to break. Coming back on the reset, you don't really feel a positive clunk here. There's 2 insignificantly silent clicks as you pull forward. The first one convinced me that it had reset, but no. Keep moving forward until you hear the second. It's an unbearably long operation and you can see me struggle to fire the MP5 quickly. It's not a deal breaker, but if you know it's there, it's disappointing. I put this down to it being the burst pack. I prefer the standard 3-position version better. It's well defined and you know exactly where you are with it. Rotate onto burst and it chirps off 3 shots nicely. There will not be a 4. It's a really cool feature that's been enjoyed on the WE version for many years. Now that VFC have caught up, the speed is higher, and furthermore, like the burst function on the real MP5, this has no memory as well. Tap the trigger as quick as you can to let off a single shot. The following full squeeze resets and it torches off a full 3-shot burst. The WE Apache series will remember, and you'll see it fire once before it resets, for the complete burst again. Rotate onto fully automatic and you can really see what this MP5 can do. If you're shooting in comfortable temperatures, it can burn off a full 30 rounds with barely a hint of cooldown. That's the mark of a good gas gun right there. Super cool. The version 2 gas system is so good it can zap through 3 loads of BBs on a single 10-second gas charge, and then it even has a little bit left in the tank for roughly 10 shots before it's finally dead. Of course, gas and temperature dependent. Coming back down from that euphoric MP5 high, it does not like the cold weather. Hardly surprising, I know. Gas guns can suffer from the effects of the elements, SMGs even more so than GBBRs, because it's essentially shooting from a small, thin gas tank. I filmed the SD in the summer of 2019. Here we are in December 2020 and it's only around 5 degrees Celsius. Still, it has taken the edge off the pace. Hasn't shut the gun down, she's still running, just not with the same confidence. If it does get colder, well, we'll be having issues then. Garter black gas it is. In all the ground this MP5 covers concerning its realism and the ability to accept real MP5 parts, it loses in the bolt stop operation and is such a major disappointment. Say what you want about the WE version, the hammer drop on empty serves as the catalyst which makes it a more accurate replica regarding that operation. VFC uses a method where the magazine follower prohibits the working parts from returning all the way, and as such, this stops the action dead, but it leaves the bolt carrier just out of battery. They should have spent more time elevating that aspect up to the standard where virtually every other element of this MP5 is currently achieving. I was initially worried about the BB follower taking a beating from the nozzle. After multiple cycles, it doesn't appear to have hurt them or cause any issues as a result. Accuracy on this MP5 has some room for improvement. I was using my regular Jeff Bio 3s at the target 20 meters away, using the standard iron sights, which I had to adjust. The BBs were hitting just to the left of the front post, so I moved the rear drum as best as it would allow to get it in line with the point of impact. The results weren't too bad. I got more hits on paper than with the MP5 SD, with only a handful finding their way off the page, and then some striking around the outer corners. It's no surprise that if you want to be totally confident in its ability to get that reliable connection within the first or second shot, it is worth your while to invest in superior upgrades, so you can compress the spread. It would be nice to reduce the flyers and those shots which deviate off course. The VFC HK MP5A5 version 2 gas blowback SMG. What's good and what's not so good? Let's take a look. This MP5 is stunning. VFC always do a good job in this regard, and given the fact that it's licensed by Umarex, it's able to display those two iconic letters. For the most part, the build quality is very good, and has that excellent feeling of quality in the hand. This subgun is definitely worthy of the HK licensing. It's such a great shooter. It's straight to business the moment you come off safe. The version 2 gas system is excellent and runs extremely well. 3-round burst mode is cool and adds another interesting element to this SMG. The new hop-up adjustment makes it infinitely more user-friendly. VFC MP5s are known for their amazing realism, and as such they accept lots of real HK MP5 parts, and not just furniture either, some internal components too. Magazines are also competitively priced compared to other gas SMG mags. Spare parts are affordable too. There's a few companies producing upgrades such as lower fire control parts, nozzles and valves, so you can do so much more with it beyond external accessories. And VFC are currently in the process of releasing the remaining variants of their MP5 family with their latest version 2 internals. So what's the bad news? I hate the fact that this MP5 still has a wobbly stock. Sort out VFC, you're embarrassing yourselves. The magazines, while excellent in mostly every way, they do not feature a dry fire mode, and it also has a silly rubber gasket to seal the base plate. I also hate the way they chose to stop the MP5 from dry firing by using the BB follower to stop the bolt travel. That's disappointing as well. Cold weather performance is also disappointing. It doesn't seem that VFC are interested in reintroducing a CO2 magazine for those of you living in colder climates that want to rock the MP5 outside of its comfort zone. The trigger action is terrible, nowhere near as positive as the 3-position trigger pack. Most of the internals are not made of steel. These MP5s are highly gassed, so if you have lower CQB sight limits, you'll need to downgrade it. At the moment, these are only available in Asia, which is extremely annoying for those of you that are lusting after one of these things. Spare parts can be a nightmare to source as well, although a couple of shops are starting to rectify this issue by stocking them, again, mostly in Asia. I've been playing around with this subgun since June, blazing through magazines, so did I break anything on it? No. After all the HK slaps I put this through and thousands of BBs, I didn't have anything go wrong with the MP5 itself, apart from some shards of broken BBs inside the receiver, after firing almost 40 magazines for the indoor filming. And I also had 2 individual cases of feed jams, and those were initially from dropping the bolt onto the first round. Now, whether the jamming was part of the carrier being slightly off-center, which I spoke of earlier, or I overloaded the magazines, I'm not sure. However, the malfunctions were easy to clear with some basic drills and it was back to normal. And that's about it. Nothing broke, and I did not have to order any spare parts from the Far East in order to finish this review, and that is always a win. So, like the SD3, it runs like a train, and this has been such a dream to review. Despite that list of negatives, I can honestly say I do not care. I can live with them or work around them. This MP5 is a beautiful SMG that not only can fill a void for collectors, but it can also bring it in terms of its action. Beautiful. I just wish VFC would have fixed the buttstock instead of sit on a bitch and earn 20%. Anyway, the weight, the balance, the compact overall length combined with its sharp shooting action results in an SMG that has an elegant grace to it. It's impossible to translate this through a review, you have to feel it for yourself. VFC's version 2 MP5 captures the very essence of what a gas MP5 should be. You can also make it that more special by adding some real MP5 parts and accessories to it. It's a platform that will really come into its own, and you can build something truly unique, something that will truly shine. Have I finally found a VFC gas gun that I actually want to keep? Yeah, I think I have. But is this better than the WE MP5? Well, tune in next time to find out. Thanks for watching the video, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, why not hit the like, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe and be notified when new videos go live. Of course, for regular updates, you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram, and I hope to see you there. Until next time, look after yourselves, and I will catch you in a bit.